Lowell's time with myself and Brian Hooper. Bit of a hodgepodge show today. We got some footage surfacing from the Scottie Scheffler incident last week. We'll hit on that. We also have some updates to the Draft Caddy. We got the NFL schedule. Can talk a little correlation, a little best ball tools, all of that good stuff here on Lowell's with Pete and Brick. Let's do it.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us.
All right. Brian Hooper, what up? We got Sammy Telesco Television becoming a YouTube member. What is up? Tyler, Michael, Starkindler, Bindles, James. How we doing today, Brian?
Fantastic, Pete. How you doing?
Pretty good. You said you've already watched this Scottie Scheffler video 400 times. You've gone full Zapruder on it.
It's the quality of the Zapruder film, maybe even less so.
I saw you shared it. You dropped it in our DMs, and I noticed Peter Jennings had retweeted it, and so I just started pulling it up, and I realized like the entire frame is obstructed by 2 buses. Like you can barely see what's happening.
It's not great, but I think you get enough. We're also taking this guy's. Did he retweet the same one I sent you?
Let me go see what.
Maybe there's more. Maybe there's more to it.
This is a golf.com. It looks like they did a little cropping here and a little tightening on it. So you see the cop right here. He's running to the car, like hits the window to get him to stop.
Yeah. And that's it. Rolls the window down. He starts reaching in.
And this is what led to Scottie Scheffler getting his mugshot taken.
Getting charged with a felony.
and his claim was he was dragged by the car, is what he told people.
Yeah, and he ripped his pants. Someone in the comments says he probably ripped his pants with the size of balls it takes to charge the #1 golfer in the world with a felony for this. We were saying,
I love how that's like how you're trying. You're like, how do I win over America? How do I get them on my side? I tell them that my pants got ripped.
Look at this. They're cuffing him.
It's absolutely wild.
Immediately cuffed. So
is this really early in the morning? Is that why it's dark? Or is this at night?
Yeah, I think that was like 5 or so. And I'm assuming that's the entrance to the country club or whatever, the player's entrance.
Mm-hmm.
He was going where they're directing him, and then shoots over to the.
Did the cop throw a flying elbow into the car and claim he got hit? Like he does just come running out of nowhere.
Yeah, he was pissed off too. Look, if you go back before he starts running like a fucking maniac, super cop. Like these are like the cops you just gotta just get rid of, or like you put them on like the SWAT team, and just like when there's actually going to be a shootout, you use this idiot. Although he probably couldn't pass the test to be on the SWAT team. If you look at the cop to his right, but before he starts running, like right at the beginning of the clip, he's totally calm.
Right. All these other guys are pretty calm.
There's one even closer to him right there to the right. He's just like, walk. He's even closer and he's just walking slowly over. Oh, this must be a player.
Well, and what's so crazy to me is like, he told his version of events as if like it was just going to be one man's word versus another man's word and he could get away with it, as if everything isn't recorded, as if there wasn't going to be a camera even slightly obstructed by a couple of buses that was going to tell us this true story. Like how do the kind of hubris you have to not only lie, but think you could get away with it is just incredible.
Makes no sense. And the mayor apparently said the video footage will speak for itself when they release this.
and he was saying that almost as if he was on the side of backing up.
They're not dropping the charges as far as I know.
My goodness. I just want to also laugh at his gait too, as he like this is like a waddle, and then almost like he's like, I'm like, what is he trying to do to the window here at the end?
I think it is the people's elbow.
It's like, did you think he was going to shatter?
You wanted to
the
break
glass?
that fucking window, you know?
You know what it looks like? It's almost like he has a clipboard. Could that be what it was? Like a clipboard or something? That's what it looks like. He almost swipes across the window. Maybe he's like, you're not on the list.
And, you know, think about it from the cop's perspective. Could you imagine if someone went down the road there, the parking lot of the PGA Championship? I mean,
yeah,
many would have died. He needed to freak out.
Yeah, I think he either has a clipboard or it's like a laminated piece of paper. You know, it's something like, look at he's cocking it back right here. I have it frozen right there.
They put him on clipboard duty and he's all pissed off about it.
Yeah. They're like, he shows up to work and he's got like his guns, his baton, you know, his knives. And they're like, dude, no, put all those away. You just have this piece of laminated paper. And he's like, well, fine. I will use it as a weapon if I need to, though.
Why doesn't someone there in charge go, ugh, Bob, this doesn't make us look great, pal. You know, we're not gonna fire you, but like let's just let him off and try to play this off and maybe send him a private apology, you know, or something like that.
How big? Because like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Scottie Scheffler is the best golfer in the world right now, right?
Yeah, he's number one. Yeah.
How, like, if this was like whoever's ranked 80th on the PGA Tour, I don't know, name a name. Do you think this is as big of a story? Because or do you think it does have to do with just Scheffler being such a big name?
No, yeah, like if Mac Hughes got arrested, I think he's Canadian too. Then they try to deport him or something. No, I don't think it's his biggest story. I mean, that makes you think, you know, obviously, like if you're just a everyday dude and you catch this cop or another cop like it on a bad day, good luck.
The only thing that would have made it if there was a bigger story, not being a top golfer, if there was a like racially charged element to it, right? Like if that would have re-stoked the flames of a lot of similar stories.
Yeah, or Tiger.
Oh my God. I mean, Tiger back in a mugshot with this cop. I mean, we would have had to fire up the Tiger Woods roast right then and there. We're like, okay, this is enough. We do need the Tiger Woods roast now.
If it was Tiger, people would just assume he did something.
Yeah. That is like, what is Scottie Scheffler's Q rating or popularity rating within the golf streets? Is he a pretty likable figure?
Yeah, I think he's like people would not expect him to commit any crimes, you know. So goody two shoes, maybe, I don't know if they go that far, but they're all golfers and bros, so I'm sure they got a little crazy in them. But yeah, he's definitely up there. But yeah, to your point, like Harold Varner III, HV3, if he got pulled over, they could make a stink out of it. But I think he's on live now.
Did the cop claim like that did he not know who he was at all? Did he not even know he was a golfer? Has he said his level of who he thought that guy was that he was doing this to?
I haven't read the story since it happened. I think he didn't know. And then, but like, as he was like perp walking him, the ESPN reporter was already out there on the scene. And I think at that point he knew. And but he had to keep going. And, you know, you got his head, you're pushing it down into the cop car.
Yeah. You would think like the normal reaction is like, I got my hand caught in the cookie jar and they're like, dude, that's Scottie Scheffler. He's like, my bad. And he's like, no, I am owning this. I am seeing this bit through.
It's crazy. Have you ever seen any of these? Like I saw, there was another one, I think it was in Florida, of a female cop doing this to some guy for like no reason, but it was all on footage. And watching her, it was pretty popular. So I'm sure some people in chat saw it. Watching her do the same thing where like her superiors come over and go, okay, what did he do? Like he did this. I had no choice. And it's like, and then they owe him, you know, millions of dollars now, obviously, and stuff like that. But they will go with it. They will go to the end.
Oh yeah, it's like I don't know. It must be like watching your friend throw a temper tantrum or something. I don't even know what this analogy would be exactly, but it's like you're too scared to intervene. You're like they are unhinged right now that they might like how is no one stepping in? You know the way like NFL teammates will if their guy gets in a scuffle and they're like holding them back, like just chill out, bro. It's not that big of a deal. But these cops are like, go to town, man. Go to town on Scottie Scheffler.
Oh, is it kind of that George Costanza thing? You know, it's not a lie if you believe it, where it's like they just I have no choice now, and then something evolutionarily kicks in where you're just going to believe that this is what happened. The events that you're lying about are now the truth, and you just go with it. And you deep down, you actually think that's what happened to save your own skin.
Right. Another funny thing to you think about internet hot take artists. Like I was just scrolling through the comments on this video, and it is literally 100% of the comments I've seen is like, "This cop's ridiculous," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But there always has to be a contrarian opinion. I'm like, what's the contrarian take here? How do you spin that this cop was justified in this reaction?
Oh, that's pretty easy. People do that all the time. They go, laws are laws. Laws are laws. Yeah. The officer directed him here. He went illegal down the illegal road, and he broke the law.
I want to see the clip after this video was released though, because that was an easier take before I think this video surfaced.
Oh yeah, I bet some people are still doing that. Maybe we're missing more context. That's definitely a possibility here. But if that is the majority of the context, and we're seeing it here, everyone's going to say every reasonable person's going to say that's ridiculous.
Also, yeah, if you were going to spin a lie about like what happened, the direction I would go, I would say that Scottie Scheffler said some really mean and nasty things to me. That's what I would say, because you know what? That security camera isn't picking that up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What color was that cop skin? He could play that card, maybe Scottie said some inappropriate things.
Did you see
it was kind of overweight? You could say call him fat.
He called me a fatty. He's like, what you holding over there, buddy? The Dairy Queen menu you printed out? What did you say about that? Oh man. Yeah. Oh, here's the guy. He did if you asked me to close my eyes and picture like what this cop potentially could have looked like, it would have been this. This is exactly what I would have pictured in my
Got it. And the funny thing was, this guy in high school weighed 102 pounds.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And he just ate his way to about 240, 5'7", maybe.
He used to be such a happy guy before, the horrors of the police force, turned him into a hardened man.
Yeah, right. Scottie Scheffler, took a left. That's it. Put him over the edge.
Oh,
what if something bad actually happened? How would this maniac, react?
Right. Like if Scottie Scheffler mowed down someone, like an individual, just T-boned him on his way to trying to get to the golf course.
Is this guy going to remain cool under pressure, in a hostage situation or something? He needs to be removed, clearly.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Well, this guy, he's gonna have a tough go of it, right? Like I said, as far as who's on his side, he's not. Are there any bars in America he's walking into and everyone's like, let's buy this guy a beer? This is an American hero right here.
While he's still a cop, no one's gonna talk shit to him probably because they don't want to get pulled over.
Jeez. What else is new in your world, Brian? I know you guys have been getting some updates to the Draft Caddy. I've been using that in my drafts. It's been very helpful. What do you got cooking up over there?
It's 24/7 Scottie Scheffler arrest over here.
That's all. Yeah.
I literally just saw that 2 minutes before we went live. Yeah, the draft Caddy, because underdogs contests are changing and they're adding bye weeks and stuff like that. So trying to make sure it all works and looks like it should, because they added that rank column this year that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
But I think we got it. Also the the auto drafter portion is way faster.
Okay, I have not tried that yet this year. And you do have it's hard. It doesn't show up on screen share when you hover to see the player styles, but those are what you see up here. So like on this Biff Tannen 55,
That's a great username. Great username.
Yes. Because I'm highlighting it right now and I see a pop-up, but for some reason, because it's like a mouse pop-up, it's not showing it on the screen share.
StreamYard doesn't do that. Yeah, any pop-ups,
Yeah.
It doesn't stream them to the audience, unfortunately. But yeah, so there should be like, I don't know, like 15 more pieces of information on Biff Tannen from.
Yeah. And the 55 means he drafted 55 teams in Best Ball Mania last year, right?
And 10.8 is like his standard deviation ADP, which is like a little bit loose, but not really. I mean, a little more loose than average.
God damn it. My webcam was doing this last week too.
Is it overheating?
Yeah, I think so.
We can hear you.
Yeah, no, you can hear me. Soccer Dave 8.1 though. What is
little nitty.
Holy cow, Soccer Dave nitty.
Well, 33 drafts isn't a huge sample size. But he's got 8 point. What's his late round standard deviation? His standard deviation, was it 167 or later?
Let me see here. Soccer Dave, I'm hovering. How do you get it to pop up when you hover over it?
Just like there, that'll hover.
Oh yeah, there it is. Late round
standard deviation 167, I think. STDE. Yeah.
Yes. 12.8 is the average user. He was 10.5.
Okay, so yeah, he needs to live a little.
Wow, you heard it. So this man, David Kitchen, spent all last summer shaming Davis not to live a little enough, and then he wasn't actually doing this.
He was a little looser than Davis, if I remember correctly, last year. But
I did a draft.
Tight.
Davis didn't get in our draft yesterday, but this one had all three of us in it, so I can pull this up to actually see because what Davis is.
I mean, Davis is really trying to live a little, I think, this year.
Yeah. Let's see here. Why is this one? Why didn't it show up on this one? That's weird. So when I went into,
yeah, I don't know. It should show on pretty much any draft you do. This is post draft. It's made for live drafting, but
yeah.
There it goes.
Yeah, this was the old one. I'll get the other one in here. But have you done any drafts yet? Have you been?
I got BBM4. I think I only have one or two, but I did like 10 of the. Was it big board or whatever it was before?
Yeah,
BBM4. Yeah.
Yep. And right now with the overlay, I'm just using the week 15, 16, and 17 matchups. I think pretty soon here, I now have 30 plus drafts under my belt, so I might add my exposure in here soon. I hadn't really cared about it at the start. But yeah, I'm excited because this year, I think the things as we get to the end of the season, I think my three things I'll have in there, my player exposures, the ownership projections, and then week 16, because I'll have week 17 memorized. Week 16 will probably be the one I don't have fully memorized. I think those would be the three I would overlay in there.
That makes sense. I would probably be 17 ownership and your exposures. Definitely ownership and exposures by that point, because ownerships is still kind of a pretty big guess at this, at this juncture. But by then you'll be much more close to like having a guy at 25% owned or something.
I should also mention, if you're wondering what we're talking about, it is the draftcaddy.com. If you go there, you can actually do a two-day free trial with it. Otherwise $25 a month. So if you're going to be doing any kind of volume of drafts at your desktop this summer, whether on Chrome or Mozilla, highly recommended it. And it also highlights players with your quarterback that are stacked. So as you're going along, you won't miss anything obvious, especially for the people who are multi-tabling, Brian, say Davis Maddock in many drafts at once. It becomes a very valuable addition.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're going to multi-table, you want to open it in its own browser. just to make sure it's. Only if you're using the auto drafter. If you're not using the auto drafter, it won't matter. But if you're using the auto drafter, just it's on DraftKings too.
Yep.
I'm not sure if all the features work on DraftKings. Mainly for Underdog. It works on drafters too, actually.
There you go. You talk sports. I feel like ownership, you can just skim the list and no need to see it live, but I like this. You know, my whole thing about this is I don't think the ownership stuff is too important right now, just because, you know, we're only 10% into the contest, 11% in, and like a lot of the numbers right now are going to change in pretty big ways. A guy who's 5% could literally be, you know, 80% by August or by when the contest closes. But I actually think come August, I do want to see those percentages, because it is really hard to remember a lot of those, specifically when you get to the back end. And I think seeing two players even from the same team and seeing them next to each other, where you could just type in, all right, Dallas wide receivers. So, you know, it's this rookie that everyone likes, Ryan Fournier and Jalen Tolbert. What are their draft percentages right next to each other? I think that's going to be a really helpful tiebreaker that I won't be able to just like remember them all in my head. Yes,
definitely. I would still probably use it now, because it's not as accurate, but it's a better guess than nothing, right? So, you know, if you have no preference, you're deciding between two players, it's an excellent tiebreaker, even now, late round. But you're trying to memorize the weeks right now, so you know it's not. You don't have to have it up there for sure, but you can also customize, put any custom anything you want on as the overlay. That made me think of something though. You know what would be kind of cool to add would be a highlight, because we've talked about this over the years. Like, we don't want to highlight too many player correlations because we don't want it like too distracting. Right. What about if a player is in two correlate, so week 15 and week 17 or something like that, two or more?
Yeah. You're saying that would kind of override it or be another thing?
That would be another. So you got QB, and then their pass catchers. That's the obvious one you want highlighted. Yeah. And then like if it's 15 and 16 or 16, any combination of those 3 weeks, and there are two or more, a player's doing two or more with those teammates, or maybe three or more, whatever you want, then it'll highlight them with a different shade, a different color. Yeah. Because if it's just one, a whole bunch of players are going to start getting highlighted.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to tell. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like that. That would be cool. So yeah, I guess at the time I didn't know if you were able to build that kind of logic into the highlighter like that.
Yeah. Because if you could do one, you could do two, just two or more.
Yeah. So like you're saying in this example, if I took DK Metcalf and JSN, otherwise it wouldn't highlight until I have Geno and knows I have that stack. But if I have two Seattle players, it would then start highlighting any other Seattle player, regardless of position.
Well, I would say two or more weeks. So like, I don't know the schedule. If you bring up a draft, I can.
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
Show you. I think is so like, let's say you have, it'll be easier when you get the draft up.
Yeah. Here, one sec. All right, I will go into my drafts. All right.
I want to talk about Jameson Williams too. He's the Lions wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
After you do this. So like, I don't know who your wide receivers here.
Yeah. I have AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Smith. Yeah.
So Philly wouldn't count as two, but who's Philly? So Philly's playing Dallas, right?
Yes.
So if you had also had a Tampa Bay wide receiver tight end,
okay,
that would be two correlation weeks. Or Carolina.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So he correlates with like multiple players on your team.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be good. Yeah. I also do like the idea of, I agree, like if you just have one player, that it would be too much for everyone to get highlighted. That was a teammate pairing, but maybe if you had two, like I wish it kind of worked in reverse. So like say that you do take Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I want to be reminded, hey, this should be a Baker Mayfield team, because otherwise Baker Mayfield as the quarterback. So like once you take two, that it does highlight other players from that team, I think could be good.
Okay. What like example of Baker would be which players then?
No, so I'm saying because like the caddy only highlights players after you take the quarterback.
Okay, yeah, you're saying the reverse.
The reverse. So if you have two, and I'm agreeing with you that if you take one, highlighting every other teammate player would be a lot. But if you have two players, then highlighting it and specifically the quarterback would be nice.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that could be on there. That could be on
because
there.
basically what you're trying to do, Brian, is you were trying to put the star method, which many people have filed damages against, out of business. You don't need to put these in your queue and risk getting auto drafted. Because what in this scenario, say I have Deontay Johnson and those Tampa guys, and I go to quarterback and I just see Baker highlighted, I see Bryce Young highlighted, and I kind of have my list already highlighted over here without having to put them in the queue.
Yes. Yeah. Especially for guys like me who are not, doing 4 shows a week and a newsletter. But the auto drafter with the speed update too should do the mass majority of this stuff for you and put it right in the queue. And you don't have to pick the player, but it shouldn't really interfere with you. But you guys are pretty quick, so maybe it would still for going in between draft board and back to the draft.
Yes,
but I think you could use the auto queue too to do that without even the color coding. But maybe we should add some more colors without overdoing it.
Yeah, it's tough because this is one of the things I said in my correlation video. This goes to your point of like, you couldn't just put every teammate every week 17, every week 16 correlation, because there's going to be one at ADP every single pick you make. And it's like, why you don't ever need to force these correlations is because once you select 5 players from different teams, it's like there are so many ways to correlate at that point. But yeah, I do. If you guys haven't seen that yet, I have a video out about the NFL schedule, talking about correlation, how much you should reach, some nice schedules for the playoffs, etc. That's over on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel. But yeah, it is correlation there. Now that we've added 16 to being part of the meta this year, Brian, there is infinite ways to correlate.
Right. I mean, the other one would be to highlight just week 17. That might not clog it up too much. It probably still would, but week 17 is not all that matters anymore. So you kind of need them all.
It's such a chicken or the egg thing too, because part of me is like, the type of people who are using the Draft Caddy probably already have the week 17 matchups memorized, but not necessarily, because there are people like you who it's like, all right, I'm not going to devote every second of my, life's existence to best ball, but I do want to be able to hop in the draft and have the answers here without having to use that brain power. So maybe those are the people you're going after.
If you're doing 2 drafts at the same time and surfing the net a little bit, and even if you have them memorized, it's nice to have it right in your face,
for sure.
That's my opinion. But Jameson Williams, I was listening to Levitan's couple pods ago. I don't know, he's mentioned him a bunch of times. I've heard you guys talk about him a little bit. I was thinking, like, leaving him aside just for a second, if you have a player who's like perfectly at ADP, like let's just say somehow the best ball gods came down and said this player should be in the 9th round.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't you still take a player like Jameson Williams, even if it is at the DFS God approved ADP slot? Because if things roll the way you want, it's such a win. So
you're saying because of his type of archetype of player?
Yeah. And it's not like there's guys who have uncertainty that aren't like this.
Yeah.
But like, cause my point is kind of like, like everyone now is like, oh, take this guy now, him or whoever. I'm using him as an example, but it can be any other. Because he's going to be in the 7th round come September or whatever. but like even then, you should probably take them. Like,
Yes.
because it's best ball and you're just trying to get like all these outlier events to happen anyways, that you should kind of always be rolling the dice, even if that ADP is perfectly efficient.
I
So
actually
roll
was
it
thinking,
on like Adam Thielen or something. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And it's funny because I've been thinking about this the past day or two, because there was a comment in a live stream the other day and I didn't get a chance to hit on it, but so George Pickens, who is a Jameson Williams type player, very kind of similar archetypes in a way. I'll define these guys as explosive players, have shown the capability to like score on just one touch because they're that athletic, but then also not completely well-rounded wide receivers. They're not like technicians who are going to earn a ton of targets. It's like their athleticism, their explosiveness that makes them exciting fantasy assets. And I was remarking that George Pickens going in the 3rd round now is like pretty insane because he has lots of red flags on his profile in the similar way Jameson Williams does. And someone said in the chat, well, George Pickens went for 40 points last year in week 16. Like, aren't those the kind of guys we want? Guys that can score 40 points in a given week. And I got to trying to think through like, yes, these guys have ceiling, but it's also what is the probability of them hitting that ceiling? Like Gabe Davis scored 40 points that one playoff game for the Bills against the Chiefs, and then was just like awful all of last year because he's such an inconsistent player and has all these other issues. So it's like, do you draft him in the 5th round because he has the capability of putting up 40 points? And then how do you assign that risk level to a very infrequent ceiling, albeit a ceiling that exists?
And like, let's say Chubb, like Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that uncertainty is not great. So we're talking about uncertainty, but there's just different types to it. And I just think like saying all things are equal, you take Jameson Williams every time with it, forgetting about portfolio management, right? Like, you should, like, using portfolio management, like, you should just have more Jameson Williams. You know what I mean? Whatever that is for you, 20%, 25% or something. I don't think you want to go too crazy. But like, I think if everything's equal, you take the upside uncertainty risk, and in spots like his specifically makes a lot of sense to me. But like, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other ones.
So I think I love this discussion, and because I also think I completely agree with you. My thing the way I would maybe counter would be, I think there are other spots because Jameson Williams is entering, his 3rd year. And even though it has been a relatively small sample size relative to other, 3rd year players, because he's been injured and he was suspended and we just like haven't seen him put together a full season yet. So there's almost this allure of like, okay, is there a breakout here? Is there more? My counter would be like those injuries, those suspension, like the red flags, like he has gotten opportunities and there's been all these false starts. What if I pointed you in the direction of some rookie wide receivers who go in a similar range, who also have exciting mystery box profiles, and we have 0 sample size docs on what they can do in the NFL that makes them even more intriguing than Jameson Williams?
Right. But I mean, I think they kind of fall in the same camp. I think it's very, very much, you'd probably have to put a whole bucket of players in this category and then just draft them when that kind. But like, also in this theoretical, all these guys are perfectly priced ADP wise.
I see what you're saying.
So like, it sounds like the rookie wide receivers are too high right now or something, as some people are saying. But even that's another reason why I bring this up. I mean, you're bringing up. I
don't think they are.
You're arguing for me though. Like, I would still take them. Now, yes, clearly within reason, right? Like, if they're 4 rounds ahead or ADP, you're not going to go that crazy. But for this reason, it just kind of sucks that people, in sports always have a hard on for rookies and rookie cards and all that stuff. So they're going to be higher than they rightfully should anyways. But that is probably more of the uncertainty that I'm talking about that should be a tiebreaker like almost every single time. I'm trying to think of like a mid-round wide receiver who like what you're getting. I can't think of one off the top of my head. You got one?
Well, it's so hard because even those guys that like I would normally bucket there, I'd be like, oh, a guy like Curtis Samuel, and it's like, well, he changed teams and now is on the Bills. I'd be like, oh, Jacoby Myers, he's like and it's like, well, they added Brock Bowers, who's one of the greatest tight end prospects ever. That I'm trying to come up with like Deontay Johnson, honestly, going from the Steelers to the Panthers, I feel like it's a pretty lateral move environment wise. I think he's probably a good archetype for that.
Okay. I was thinking like of course, because I'm the world's number one Bears fan. I was thinking Mooney before. I don't think he's on the team anymore, is he? But when he was catching 60 balls a year or something like that, and like 3 touchdowns every year, not good. What you're getting, kind of. But Johnson too. He was a first round pick, wasn't he? But yeah, he's basically in that category now. You could even say that with good players too. You can kind of even say that with good players. I mean, I don't, not too good, but like someone who'll catch, 65 balls, 75 balls, 5 touchdowns every year. Like that's what it happens more, I think, with like tight ends. But like you don't have that sort of upside uncertainty.
Well,
and in this world where everyone's priced perfectly, like that's like your clear, I think, best ball winner.
Well, what's so funny about that is like, I do think the Pickens example is pretty good in that if you told drafters, because he was mostly a bust last year at his ADP, he was like a 6th round busted, but then literally had 40 plus points in week 16. If you had him, like he was your advance rate guy, like he got you to the finals. Him and Amari Cooper both went nuts. You had one of them, boom, you got your ticket to the finals. If you told drafters that basically you have your best ball god that comes down, he's like, he's going to be pretty so-so, probably not help your team, but he's going to do this specific week. Where would you take it? And drafters would have been like 40 points in week 16. All right, I'll take him in week 3 or week 4. Yeah. Then the question is, but you don't want to take him there this year, assuming you're going to get a 40-point game, which is maybe like a once every few year outlier type performance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you just tell me, well, guy's going to get 40 points in week 16 or 17,
you can justify a pretty big price tag.
Pretty high. Yeah. And that would have been, you probably wouldn't have made the playoffs.
On a lot of the teams.
Yeah. Right. But it would have been nice getting him in like 14 or 15, round 14 or 15 or something.
Well, that's what it was. I had a team, I had a couple teams like that were like, and that's what's so sick about these best ball tournaments, right? The way that these are constructed. And I know some people lament them. I've heard Levitan like complain about this structure, but it is like the goal is to drag the worst version or the worst regular season team to the playoffs. And then your goal is to drag the worst week 15 team to week 16. And then your goal is to drag the worst week 16 to week 17, where you have a shit ton of unique players. Like that is the ultimate goal, even though you can't really plan for that.
Or just luck box, just to a win of every, constantly winning every round for some reason that pays off. I mean, I think it's like when the opportunity, probably that's, but like the key point here, we're talking about wide receivers, I think mainly here, but when the opportunity, when there's uncertainty about opportunity, that's probably a good thing and should be. And so like, even if you were drafting Jameson Williams, I keep using him. It's not like I really know, but it sounds like everyone agrees that he's kind of in this ballpark. Let's say you're drafting him. What was he getting in the beginning? 13th round or something, or 12th or something?
Oh, like big board. Yeah.
And then, but then like he's eventually down lower. I still wouldn't like just not draft him. I would still think like that's like that's okay. His ADP is perfectly efficient. Everyone figured it out now. It's still probably not that bad of a gamble.
I agree. I'm with you. I think when I think about drafting players because they are risers, like some do fall in that bucket of like, look, I'm not going to want any Ezekiel Elliott when people are taking him in the 9th round because he's the de facto starting quarterback or running back on the Cowboys. So I'm going to get my shares now, like when he's a 14th round, 15th round pick. And then I'm just going to be like, I don't like this player. I don't like the situation. He's done. But then there's going to be other players, like I was hammering Jaden Daniels, the new quarterback on the Commanders, and now I'm going to keep drafting him at ADP. Like when I have a correlation with him, like I'm done drafting Jane Daniels, even though I have like 40% of him right now. It's like, no, I'm just going to not be like reaching and grabbing him. Like he is still going to be part of my portfolio. He's just now a guy, not like a massively mispriced player.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think like people get in this mindset that like, and we're talking to a small portion of the world here, but people who watch this show will know because they're drafting early and they get these values or whatever. And then come to, a month or two from now, they're like, I'm not taking this player because I took him in the 14th round and I don't have to. But like all the players should, in theory, get more efficient later on when more news comes out and more money's being wagered and the numbers get so like you still should take them like, but like, it's just kind of like some sort of best ball bias, that
well, the same thing happens in DFS, Brian, right? Like say you start playing a wide receiver when they're priced at 5K because they're just like massively mispriced for their new role. And then DraftKings keeps inching them up. Now they're 5.6. Then they're 6.3. They're still like it was Puka last year, right? The rookie, where it was like he was pretty cheap. There was a lot of those weeks where he was like 7.2 and he was performing like an 8.6 wide receiver. But you have the block of like, man, I played Puka when he was like 5,400. Like I'm not paying 7,600 for him. And it's like, well, he should be 8,400. Where you have that mental block of I already paid that price. I don't want to go up here any further.
Yeah. Yeah. Although DFS players will go pretty high for their guy. Sometimes though, they just make it like in golf, they'll make someone like 13,000 and then eventually they'll, okay, I'm not taking Scottie. Scottie Scheffler was arrested last week and he's 32,000 or 13,000. I guess I won't take him.
I wanted to circle back to this. Some people in the chat were talking about a suggestion for the Draft Caddy. And I wanted to brainstorm this with you because I might have a somewhat similar suggestion. So Starkiller says the week 16-17 matchup continue with the player after you've drafted them. So I assume he means over here on the right side of the board. My counter to
take
that,
his comment down so I can see what you're trying to do.
Sorry, would just be over here. But I think it might get too tight.
Oh, yeah. There's not a ton of room.
What if, Brian, though, what if we had another thing like below or above draft capital or just shifted draft capital down and right here had like it said stacks. And so like say once I took Jalen Hurts, it puts like Philly and then it puts them up here. So it just says Philly, Pitt, Washington, Dallas, and then it puts like a number of how many of the Philly you have. So it's like Philly 1, Philly 2. Okay, now I have a triple stack. It says Philly 3 and it shows you those correlations in this like area here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that can happen. So it's got to be the based off of your QBs.
No, I think it would just be any because like the way they're saying it is it would be nice to know like once you have a player from any team. So let's just say I took Garrett Wilson. Even though I didn't end up taking that quarterback, it would be nice to see here Jacksonville, at Los Angeles, and Buffalo, because what he's saying is say you want to go look or say another opposition isn't coming up where you see that they play the Jets. You have to basically go back and type in Jets to then see what their matchups are. So this would alleviate it. It would just be once you've taken a player from a team, it would put their opponents here.
Okay. I wonder if we could fit it in between the Q box and the player box, like in that little, you know what I'm saying?
In here?
Like that. I can't see your mouse for some reason.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Why is that? There we go.
There he goes. No, to the right of the box. Right there. Left. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Like
that
outside.
Seems tight.
Just, yeah, it's tight. You could do week 17 probably.
Yeah. See, to me, I literally think it could look like a very similar table to this draft capital where it says stacks, it says team, it says week 15, week 16, week 17, And then it just, I guess the question is how dynamic.
Oh, I
can it
got you.
be?
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So it'd be a whole new. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your week 17 correlations, you're looking for your week 16 correlations.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, do you give a shit that your 6 wide receiver is correlated with somebody? Like, don't you only want
No.
your like studs kind of?
I think though where it's helpful is it's like it's saying this is the menu. This is the menu for correlations. And the way I do it in my head is I say, like, what are my biggest bets? So like on this team, I took Jalen Hurts, and then AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. Like, I'm loaded up on the Eagles. I'm like, they play Dallas in week 17 and they play the Seahawks in week 16. So I knew, like, I wanted to have a bring back for those weeks since I took such a big bet. So then I prioritized Charbonnet Dowdle. So like, to me, it would be your biggest stacks. I want to see their matchups because those are the ones I want to prioritize the bringbacks for the most.
That's what I'm saying. So like, if we could put like 6, so we got week 17, week 16, week 15, and like a little matrix box above draft capital.
Yeah.
And then, but the teams you want populated are probably just your early 8 picks or something. I don't know what.
It would be the only reason that wouldn't always be the case is like, what if you're building a late 3 QB team and it's like you have a couple, like you still, if say I'm setting up and it's like, all right, I know I took a couple Chargers and I know I'm getting funneled to a Saints, Patriots, and Broncos build. Like, I want to know who do the Saints, Broncos, and Patriots.
I mean, it could be once you have like 2 or more players in the same team.
Once you have 2, then it shows their opposition would be perfect.
Maybe your first wide receiver, your first RB, first QB, or just two players.
To me, it's like once I have a bet on a team, which I'm just going to classify as more than one player. So once I have 2 or more players, I want to start knowing who their opponents are.
Okay, that would be pretty easy.
Yeah.
And you want that above the draft capital?
I think so. Like, maybe I'm wrong here. I like checking in on the draft capital. It's fun, but it is not one of the primary things that it's more like a fun thing for me to look at the end of the draft than something I'm using while I'm drafting.
You could look how beautiful you put each bucket into the target bucket there perfectly. The draft capital, by the way. I think the reason that is easy for you is because that's how you draft. You draft naturally, from years of playing to fit the draft capital like allocation. I find myself and people who don't play that much, it's kind of hard to get wide receiver bucket 1. And if you kind of got to piss yellow a bit to get there each day or each draft, I mean. And so like for you probably don't need it. For people who aren't drafting 150 every year in the BBM4, I actually do use it. And you could see that little next, it says 0 since the draft is all over right under draft capital. That'll show how much each pick you currently have, how much it's worth. And so it also lets you know, like, oh, this pick doesn't matter anymore. I have to start doing this stuff way earlier.
Yeah, that's true. No, I am taking that muscle memory for granted. I believe Leone is in the lab looking at last year's data and going to have an update to the manifesto. So we'll hopefully have even more of the draft capital data to work with, which will be nice.
Yeah. If it's free, I'll adjust that too. I don't want to, or if he says I can use it, I don't want to steal his stuff, but we'll definitely update it too.
Yeah, because I mean, again, like this draft capital data, and we talk about this a lot. I mean, it's very helpful because it is a big sample of teams, but it was for a single slate, the BBM3 slate. This is the draft capital to spend if you want to be Pat Kerrane and win $3 million. But no, I do think it is helpful for guardrails if you haven't been doing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if he adjusts, if he changes that.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, I think I meant to ask you. We talked a little bit about the week 16, week 17 stuff. Had you had any of your own thoughts about like the super smooth payout structures this year and how it impacted which weeks you wanted to prioritize?
I still would just use them as tiebreakers, but before it would be more focusing on week 17.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'll probably just use any. I kind of like the idea of multiple weeks in common with multiple players from the same team.
Yeah.
And building that. Like for me, it's I don't have any takes really, so it's just so easy because then I'll just go, okay, it's between these guys. Let's go over here.
Yeah.
And okay, that one matches with 2 guys. Then I take him because it's within the ballpark.
Yeah. Well, what's funny though is I mean I ran into this decision at the end of the Swolecast yesterday where it was kind of your 2 points that you've brought up today about the Jameson Williams type archetype, where I was at the end of the draft and there's this rookie wide receiver who is just like a downfield burner. He's on the Ravens. He could be like their deep threat this year, Devontae Walker. And then I was like, or I could get another bring back for that big Eagle stack that I had. I could get Jalen Tolbert, but we kind of know who Jalen Tolbert is. We've seen him in the league for 3 years. It's like the Cowboys know what he is. And so I ended up in that case, not getting the extra bring back and breaking the tie in favor of the mystery box upside selection, where my guess is you in that spot would have been like, let me get another Dallas bring back because I have this big Eagle stack kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Because I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have a take there. I mean, assuming, and also I'm trying to fill the draft capital and make it a balanced draft capital lineup too. So that comes into it. Like if I'm way behind on wide receiver, I'm just gonna, and there's a wide receiver sitting there, then I'm probably just gonna take the wide receiver. I would like to have. I wonder if there's I don't know, some sort of like radical ADP. I mean, it's probably impossible to do, but I would like to like have my own ADP where where my standard deviation's a lot higher because I'm not just picking whatever because ADP or ADP mixed with like ETR's ranking or like upset ranking or something, you're probably not going to be too far off. The only reason your standard deviation is probably going to rise by playing this kind of strategies we've been talking about is because you're going to be hunting low ownership in your 15, 16, 17, 18th rounds. That should up your standard deviation. Because if I don't want to have, I want to live a little. I don't want to have, a Davis Maddock, 6.7 standard deviation of taking just the highest available player every time.
Did you hear what Davis admitted on like the Swolecast yesterday? Because he's multi-tabling 16 drafts at once, and he like confessed he's like, I think I'm drafted the exact same version of a team over and over again in my drafts. Like, because it's like in his he took it so far of wanting to not be so diversified that he's just drafted the same goddamn team every single time.
Yeah, that's when you have to capture your ownership percentages and put it on the screen right next to the player's name.
And you've talked about this, and Sacrilegious has written about this, and I still think people are kind of misunderstanding what diversification means. And it's like, it doesn't mean on like necessarily the player level, like in the example of like, if you're taking Xavier Worthy in every draft, like you can be a diversification bro and have 40% Xavier Worthy because you think he's massively mispriced or whatever. But it's just like, you don't want Xavier Worthy always in a 0 RB build. You don't want him always paired with Patrick Mahomes. You don't want him always paired with this random running back you also like in round 2. It's like, no, get all of these combinations around Xavier Worthy. So your one big take is diversified and can benefit in different ways because you're not feeling as strongly about those other things as you are the one thing.
And who did he land with? The Chiefs or
yes,
the
yes.
Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
And then another idea I would do there too is I would take Rashid Rice in drafts. You don't take him.
As if like playing the idea, if he fails, who is the biggest beneficiary?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And so now you got a nice little portfolio balancing. It's not perfect. I don't think there's really a way to do that perfectly in sports, but like I think that's clear as day. So like Davis is probably going crazy, right? I'm assuming on Worthy.
Yes.
And so he's probably taking Rashid Rice too. So
I think that Davis takes all Chiefs players, but your point is well taken.
Right.
Yes.
Leaving him aside, anyone who would have 40% Worthy, then they should they should pivot probably. And you don't force it, obviously. Or if there's news I haven't heard about him being suspended for the year or something,
Yeah.
you should probably sprinkle in, 5% or whatever of Rice at least, or, at least maybe 8.
Yeah. I kind of like that logic to me is like easier almost to track for the wide receiver example you gave. Like, I do think like the Worthy Rice one is a pretty good one, especially because of all the uncertainty around Rashee Rice himself. I do think it's a little tricky with running backs now, just because so many backfields are devolving into committees where it's like, it's not a super binary thing that just because this guy fails, this other guy is going to be a great bet. It's like they might just split the carries and it's a mess for everyone, which is kind of another way to think through it. But I do think in some situations, it makes a lot of sense when it is like a true handcuff, like, Bijan Robinson in round 1 and Tyler Algier. If you fucking love Bijan Robinson and you're clicking him every time, it's like when you don't get Bijan, like Tyler Algier should just be your fucking dude, because if Bijan fails, it's most likely because he got hurt. And Tyler Algier is going to be playing 80% of the snaps if that happens.
Yep. And so if you got 30% Bijan, there you go. You got your portfolio handcuff right there.
And most people would misinterpret that stance and be like, no, I'm drafting like I'm right. I'm drafting like Bijan is the dude. Why would I ever take the backup? I'm wanting to make my bet. And it's like, you can be right both ways, like by balancing that out.
Yeah. And here's a perfect example. You're in a draft. Bijan gets taken before you take him. So you can't take him. You got a pick where you don't really care. You need a running back, and Algiers is just sitting right there.
Yeah.
Take him. You know what I mean? And so like, you're not giving anything up. You're just theoretically lowering your risk, which in basketball is worse than DFS probably in risk wise. Cause you can only play once a year.
Yeah.
So besides Battle Royale, you know what I'm talking about. So like it's a no brainer. And then you don't force it. Like Star Kindler here is, 45% might be a tad too much. I'm not sure if that guy's.
And that's only because you're a big photographer sympathizer, right? And you've been kind of standing in solidarity with that community after Rashee Rice assaulted one of them.
Oh, that's right. He got at the end.
You were thinking of the car one and forgot.
I was thinking of the car one.
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe you shouldn't have even 5%. I mean, if Scottie Scheffler goes to jail, you might want to lower your Rice exposure.
Yeah, I think I do think it will be a valuable exercise. And I mentioned this when I put together kind of like, I basically did this as a selfish exercise for myself of like putting that Best Ball Mania guide together. Like, what are the things I want to be thinking about during specific windows? And like that first window was like, who are these mispriced guys attacking it? And I am, come when I am like halfway through my drafts, like I'm going to go through my exposures, my top guys, and I'm going to do those kind of if-then statements that you were talking about. Like, if this guy fails that I have 35% of, what are the ways it could fail? Like, okay, one, maybe the entire offense sucks and there's no way to leverage that. But what if I'm wrong? What if Chase Brown isn't the guy? What if it is Zach Moss? Okay. All right. In drafts where I don't get, my preferred target, maybe I'm going here. I think where it gets tricky is a lot of the guys I'm loaded up on, Brian, are the later versions. I have a ton of Bucky Irving who goes super late. Rashad White's the early back. I have a ton of Ray Davis goes super late. James Cook's the early back that I think is overpriced. And so to then swing back the other way and bite the bullet is kind of hard of saying like, all right, I'll draft this guy overpriced, but to play that portfolio angle.
I was thinking like growing up or, for people who've been playing fantasy as long as I have, and you have too, back in the day, the handcuff was like, can you imagine like Priest Holmes on the Chiefs and then your handcuffs, Larry Johnson? Right? Wasn't that there? And then when Larry Johnson was the stud, wasn't Jamal Charles his handcuff?
Jamal Charles was the new guy. Yeah.
So like, but like this was like every team almost was like, you knew who the direct backup was. And when this guy eventually breaks his leg, this guy's going to go in and get 1,200 yards. And like, it's just a perfect, portfolio hedge back then. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen anymore. But like, if you played fantasy back then, you know what we're talking about.
Yep. I saw someone wondering when are we going to do a streamed caddy draft? Yeah, we can definitely do one of those. Not today, but Brian and I can maybe plan it in advance. Maybe, you know what? One thing that I found helpful, Brian, when I was doing my 150 stream drafts was clearly just trying to squeeze them in wherever I could. This show, that show. Maybe we toss our friend Neil Orfield a bone, say, hey, come on here, draft one of your 150 teams with the caddy. Brian and I can chirp at you while you draft and you get a team under your belt.
Does that break his streak? No, that still counts, right? For being the oldest 150.
Oh, I guess I haven't heard. Is he saying that they all have to be on his channel? I didn't. I opened myself up to do them all over the place.
No, I guess as long as he live streams it,
okay,
he will be the oldest to live stream 150.
I love that he's really leaning into this, being the oldest, you know.
It's all he has. I mean,
I remember I'm realizing I missed a huge marketing opportunity because I don't believe I opened up too many of I remember saying a lot of times I'm streaming all 150. I don't remember ever saying I am the first person in the history of mankind to stream all 150 of my best
you
ball
were,
anyway.
right? Yeah, you were.
I was, but I missed that marketing opportunity. I should have made sure everyone knew that.
Well, you can't. I mean, you could say from the man who was the first. You know, from now on.
Put it in my Twitter bio.
Yeah.
The first person to ever stream.
Yeah, like a little ad for the Posit Kingdom or something.
What if I really stuck it to Neil and I put in my bio the first and then in parentheses and youngest person to ever stream all 150 of their drafts?
That might be broken though soon enough. I wonder, is there anyone else besides you two?
I haven't seen anyone else going for it this year. It's not too late, right? You would just have to have saved all your bullets.
Yeah. I mean, you could just like put the auto drafter on and like fall asleep and just, just pop 150 up the day before the football season starts. And
there you go.
And you're good.
There you go. Yeah, I think it's one of those world records that is not very desirable to hold. So I think that we'll
I think Woodband, that could be a good bit for the show called Guinness Book of World Records. See if we can get on there for something.
I love all the new niches emerging for best ball streaming. My buddy Ben Gretsch on Ship Chasing, because he lives in the state of Washington, can't legally draft there, drives across the border. He's now firing up streams, making his slow draft picks because he's on the clock and all of these. He's the world's first slow draft streamer because he pulls it up and he's like on the clock in 16 drafts. And so then just kind of talks through the spots, which is like a fun, like the chess puzzle toy game version of like, let's talk through this spot. And so I love it. The best ball streaming niche.
I saw that. I saw his first one. And I'm like, how is he going to do this with slow drafts? I was like, oh, that's right. He's got them all clocked up, ready to go. You get 8 hours.
Yeah. And you can in the same way, if anything, you think about how sometimes in a fast draft, it's like, well, man, I pick at the turn, bang, bang, don't have a lot of time to fully discuss the second pick or whatever. There are some fun spots where it's like, man, I can make a really good case for going these 3 directions. Let's kind of like talk it out and spitball it. I kind of like that angle for him. Yeah.
So he'll be the world's first 150 slow drafter. If he continues, it's not easy. It's a grind.
It is. You gotta love it. Do what you love and you'll never grind a day in your life. All right, Brian, people can check out the Draft Caddy, thedraftcaddy.com. If you do want to watch a draft with the Draft Caddy in action, we'll probably end up drafting on Ship Chasing here in less than a half hour. Anything else, Brian, from you?
We're still trying to get people to sign up for the new site, endgamesyndicate.com. If you haven't signed up, check it out, because we're hoping we can get released in like a week or two. Probably more like 2. We did 3 videos with Nerdy Tenor already. So
nice. How's that going? That process?
That's we're up to 3. So slow. But yeah, hopefully we get up to like 10 or so before we go live and get everything going.
Yeah. That's fun. I'm excited to see what it looks like. Are you guys who's like editing the videos and stuff? Have you guys been putting?
We just do it live right now. This format is just do it live and talk. Like he had like a whole book like he was writing out. Yeah. A year or 2. He's been working on, and we just use that as the notes for his series. Like this was just his his stuff, which is like, game theory and toy games and applying it to DFS.
Yeah.
So we just kind of go by the script kind of
Mhm.
right now. And stop recording and just start a new one if we have another topic to talk about. Yeah. And then the more I think about it, we got to do some best ball ones, soon before best ball season's over too. But
yeah,
it should be good stuff.
Nice. I'm excited to see those once they emerge from the lab there. Like I said, I have a video out this week on the Deposit Kingdom channel, kind of going through all the schedule stuff, how to think about correlation, ways to think about quantifying it, how much you should reach, all kinds of stuff like that, as well as getting into some of the fun stuff, which teams kind of round robin each other through the playoffs. I kind of phrased it as you can essentially buy 2 stacks, get 1 free with some of these sets of playoff teams who play each other across 15, 16, and 17. So check that out on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel. Have been having lots of fun with those. There's also that week 16 versus 17 video that I referenced there earlier that's up as well. So all kinds of evergreen strategy videos. If everything we're talking about here sounds very in the weeds to you, I think those videos will get you caught up to speed fairly quickly. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time on Lulz every Thursday.